So I took a single dose of 30C, it was, a few drops one night, and woke up in the morning going, oh my goodness, that's what your body can do when you get the right trigger overnight. It was like opening doors in my mind that I didn't even know were there. Homeopathy has always made sense for me. It just makes sense. I have understood that my life is about being of service, and that's what I do. And for any of your students, for anybody who's starting in homeopathy, you get a diploma, you're out there, you think, I've got it, and believe me, that's when the learning starts. And the best thing I did, the best, was to have...
Today's guest is Gwyneth Evans, one of those unsung heroes in homeopathy, who is just quietly doing her work day by day at just about to turn 80 years old and still out there helping people. In fact, even starting new ventures by starting a bespoke homeopathy course along with a colleague, Layla Joffe, for people in New Zealand who want to learn how to use homeopathy in their homes. It is a 100-hour course, and we will be popping the details in the show notes for you. So Gwyneth is also part of the Kapiti Children's Charity, and you can always find more information about her at andromeda333.com or her personal website, empower.net.nz. And if you would like to learn a bit about Julian Winston, you can go to julianwinston.com. So we will be talking about Julian in the podcast as well, who was married to Gwyneth. This was just one of those really, truly magical interviews. And you can just tell what a generous person Gwyneth is, just with her time even today, being willing to share so generously, sharing her stories, telling us a little bit about the scene of homeopathy back in the 90s and her own personal journey. And I just want to say, Gwyneth, thank you so much for all the amazing work that you're doing. And anyone who would like to head over to New Zealand in June, to Wellington specifically, the beautiful Wellington, you can still get tickets for the New Zealand Homeopathic Conference, and we'll pop the details for that in the show notes as well. So grab a box of tissues, make a cup of tea, get yourself nice and comfy, and just settle up for this gorgeous conversation with Gwyneth Evans and myself. And it will feel like you were just hanging out with a friend and listening to some stories. Well, that's what it felt like to me anyway. So thank you for listening and enjoy the episode.
Welcome to the Homeopathy Hangout Podcast, where we discuss all things homeopathy from around the world. And now our mum and your host, Eugenie Kruger.
Hello, homies, and welcome back to Homeopathy Hangout. Today I have a beautiful guest for you all the way from Aotearoa, New Zealand, the lovely Gwyneth Evans. Welcome to the show, Gwyneth.
Thank you for letting me be here.
It is a huge honor to have you here. I am just so grateful, when we have homeopathic greats like you that I get to have on the podcast and talk about your decades of experience. It's a massive honor.
There's still my ego. Good gracious me.
Now, we have a little tradition here on the podcast where I start off all my guests by sharing how they were first introduced to homeopathy. I'd love to hear your story.
Well, that goes back a long way to when my children were very small. And I think, like the same as many patients that come to a homeopath, is when something isn't working and the diagnosis or the help from the doctor or the GP, whoever you go to, is not quite answering whatever's going on. So this was when my children were about 3 and 5, something like that. And what does one do when one has been to the doctor and is somewhat like, no, I'm not a whole lot better? And I complained about it to my friends at the squash club. One of them said, well, why don't you try something else like naturopathy or homeopathy? And I had no idea what she was talking about. And the upshot was that she said, I have a friend who has some books. And we went and looked at what I suspect was Verica's repertory and looked up depression, and it had 2 remedies. And she said, now you read these two things in this part of the book. And I did, and I read, I think, Nux Vomica. I read, oh, that sounds like me. That sounds like how I feel, irritable, wake up feeling. So I took a single dose of 30C, it was, a few drops one night, and woke up in the morning going, oh my goodness, that's what your body can do when you get the right trigger overnight. And when I look back, it's like so haphazard that I struck on that. But in the widest sense, from the years that have gone by and where I am at this age, I look back and I think that I needed, or homeopathy needed me. And that sounds a little arrogant, and I don't mean it to. But somebody said to me, a wise man that I was seeing, an osteopath at the time, he said, I think that Spirit said, we need a homeopathy college in Wellington and you're it. And on some level, at that soul level that we all have, I recognised it, even though I was really not consciously knowing that that was the path that I was going to go down. I was actually interested in health and disease, however, because I'd been in the hospital system as a radiographer for the years from school till having children. So I knew a bit about the body, but to have this whole different way of looking at it was extreme. Of course, at that time, there were very few homeopaths around, and I certainly couldn't find any. There was a homeopathic society, but that I hadn't kind of quite found that yet, and I didn't kind of understand it. There was a society library that you could ask for books for, and I sent away for one as a library. They had a library you could borrow, and they posted one to me. And what I chose, or the one that sounded really interesting, it was full of symptoms. I thought, oh, let's have a look at that. Well, what I got was Kent's Repertory.
It's a fun read.
No idea what it was talking about. So that was a bit of a, that's no use. I did find one homeopath who did a visit from the South Island once a month, and that was a very odd experience. And he, I think, looking back, I think he used a Keyshaw card repertory. So I would tell him something and he'd pick up this little card with holes in it, and then he'd have two or three and hold them up to the light. And
I've never heard of that.
Card repertory. Well,
no.
Yeah, it has symptoms with a certain number of remedies written on it for that particular rubric or symptom, and then if you get two or three and pile them up together and look them up, only the certain ones that are on that will show
Oh, that's
through.
quite smart, actually.
Well, yes and no. Anyway, I thought, oh, well, that's the way. I was feeling better pretty much from that first remedy anyway. And then my husband was posted to have a 4-year posting in England, in London. And one of the first things I thought, interestingly enough, was I'll find a homeopath there because the Queen does it. So while it took me several months to actually tone down my New Zealand accent to speak a little more roundly so that they could understand what I was talking about, I did find a homeopath and went to see her and saw her for about 4 months. And after that, I said to her, I don't think this is working. I don't think it'll come anymore. And she just smiled, went back to her first page of her notes and said, da-da-da-da-da, reading from what, and I said, did I say that? And she said, yeah. And then read a bit more and I went, oh, maybe it has done something. And that was about then that she said, you should study this. And I said, absolutely, categorically, no. I was too old. I didn't have the money. And I'd promised myself never any more exams. And I think I started about 2 weeks later. And like a friend of mine said about that time, she was studying law back here in New Zealand. She said, I've found what I want to be when I grow up. And I thought, oh, I have too. Different path, but that's how it came about, really.
You tell a great story. I'm sure the students at the Wellington College had a great time learning from you because you can tell that you're a natural educator. just the way that you're sharing the information so easily and in such an engaging way. You had me sitting on the edge of my seat here.
Oh, good. Thank you.
And then you brought that back because I want to hear the rest of this story now. You've taken me on a journey, but also just for our listeners, because, like, is it impolite to ask your age? Because I happen to know, but I just think for our listeners.
I wondered if you're going to ask me that. And I would just say one thing. I have, in the last decade or so, certainly in the last 5 or 6 years, I've been thinking, when do you get to the age where you say it quite proudly, oh, I'm blah, blah, And I have been extremely reluctant.
Oh, you really don't have to. I just find it.
I will say.
Because I actually think it's quite rude to ask people, but I kind of feel like in this case, it's so inspiring because you're still a practicing homeopath. And in fact, and we're going to talk about this soon, you're starting up another homeopathy school.
Well, not quite that big. A course, an introductory course. Yes.
But the fact is, there are people around the world your age who are sitting there watching soapies all day or with their feet up or gossiping to their friends, like really not doing anything with their life. Not that I think if you're at that age, you probably don't have to do anything with your life. I think you deserve to sit with your feet up. But what I'm just saying is that you're not. You're still out there doing these incredible things, which is mind-blowing. And in fact, I have a lady who has just signed up to our CHE Australia. She is 71. And I said to her, well, I have this lady on the podcast and I'm hoping to get another lady on the podcast who's actually 90. So you still potentially have 20 years of practice when you graduated here from our fast track course. So she was really inspired to learn that.
There you go. Well, I'll tell you, I'm 80 in May.
Yay! I hope you're going to have the hugest birthday party.
No. I was looking at it this morning thinking, I am secretary of the Woodworkers Guild here in Carverty, where I live, and that's our AGM that night, and I'm expected to be there. I thought, oh, man. But I am having a weekend away with my family at the beginning of May, so that will be good. Yeah.
So then you were in London and you studied homeopathy there, and then you brought it back to New Zealand. Just tell us like a little bit about that history.
Well, there was a big hiccup in the system. It's a 4-year course. And because of the timing of when we'd arrived and when we were due to leave, it was going to be slightly awkward anyway, because we arrived in the December and we would have had to 4 years later go back. However, I started about 8 months after we arrived in London, started at the Wellington College of Classical Homeopathy. And it was a 4-year, 1 weekend a month kind of course. And I think the year that I started, there was a huge intake of about 150 or something. We were split into 2 groups and we had some amazing teachers and it was a mind-blowing experience. Seriously, I say to people that it was like opening doors in my mind that I didn't even know were there. And it really, homeopathy has always made sense for me. It just makes sense. So when my husband came home, I just was coming to the end of my 3rd year, in the middle of the year, coming to the end of the 2nd year of the 4-year course. And my husband came home from work and said, in December, I have to go back to New Zealand. That's when my term will end. And I'm going, oh no, this is terrible. And I was in quite a lot of despair, and I wasn't allowed to talk to anybody much about it because it was all hush-hush in the diplomatic service, really. And I went and talked to a friend who was older and was allowed to know, and she said, oh, well, what did you do before you came over here? And I said, well, I was a radiographer. And she said, oh, you'll go back and find a job like that and you'll be fine. And I just was inside, I was screaming, I cannot. I couldn't even imagine at that time being in the radiography department. Sometimes you would go to fracture clinic to take ongoing x-rays of people who have non-union fractures or something. And I thought, how can I morally not say you need some phytum and ethically, legally not be allowed to say it? And I thought, I can't do that. And I went home and I was actually sitting on the bed crying, and I had absolutely one of those cartoon light bulb moments, where you just go, I won't go back then. So that put the cat amongst the pigeons somewhat in the household, but I did end up staying for 6 months to finish the end of the third year, and the principals at the college had told me that yes, of course you can finish the fourth year there, you just go home, set up your practice. And I had done all my clinical training necessary over there before I came back. So that's what I did. I stayed an extra 6 months without my husband, and the son went back and my daughter stayed with me. And well, I suppose it was the beginning of the end of a marriage that wasn't working by that time. Maybe I changed too much. However, when I came back and there was another homeopath in the same suburb that I was living in, I thought, this isn't going to work. And when I met her, she said, oh, I'm glad you're here. I've been waiting for you. I've been calling for somebody to come and take over. I don't want to do this anymore. I'll tell all my patients to come to you and you can have all my remedies as well. Wow. So that was how it was.
You give me goosebumps.
It's an extraordinary journey. When I think back, it's like, oh my goodness, amazing.
And then you hear this universally from homeopaths, like the homeopathy calls you, it really does. And when it wants you, it's going to find ways.
Yeah, and I did. I found ways by supporting myself and my daughter by doing nannying and house cleaning, which was interesting. Well, we won't even go into those experiences, but it was a way to stay there. Then I set up practice and yeah, it just began there. I ran a first aid course, teaching the beginnings of homeopathy and acute illnesses, that sort of thing, and had 25 people at the first class.
Wow.
So I know it was extraordinary. When I think back, it's not like that here anymore. You kind of can't do that. But that was 1987. So, yeah, so there I was. But the best thing, and for any of your students, for anybody who's starting in homeopathy, you get a diploma, you're out there, you think, I've got it. And believe me, that's when the learning starts. And the best thing I did, was there was somebody who'd been through the same college as me, living in Wellington, and she'd been back for about 3 years. And she had a practice, that was what she did, and I had her as a mentor. And there were times when if I hadn't had that, somebody to say, I'm not sure what I do next, and she would reassure me and say, you're on the right tracks, and repeat that remedy and see how you go and let me know. And we would meet once a month. It was really a very, very good thing to do. And I strongly recommend a mentor like that for anybody.
At any stage. I was chatting with somebody the other day and they've, been a homeopath for many, many years and they still have a supervisor. And I was like, wow, that's actually really amazing.
Supervisors are a whole different ballgame. A mentor is somebody who can coach you along through what you do. A supervisor is the one who can give you a critique. Not criticism. A critique is about saying, what do you think you could do better about that thing? A criticism is more like saying, this is what's wrong, blaming, and the other one is saying, this is what's wrong, however, this. So it's about helping, and it's a different feeling to me altogether.
I would love to hear about starting the Wellington College of Homeopathy, though. Because that would have been were there any homeopathic training institutions in New Zealand at that time?
Yes, there was. This is pre-online stuff, of course. There was one up in Auckland with Derek Briggs, the Auckland College of Homeopathy, and still is the South Pacific College of Naturopathy. And they had, I won't even talk about registers just yet. So they were there teaching a little bit of homeopathy. There was the Homeopathic Society, which had a kind of register about people who had studied homeopathy, but it's also for members. You could join if you just had an interest. You didn't have to be practicing as one. And there was a college down in Christchurch for a short while. But the major thing that happened in about 1988, 1989, was that there was quite a few homeopaths, maybe 10 or 12 of us who had been trained overseas and came back and wanted to set up its own organisation. And because of the work that I'd done with kindergartens and that sort of thing with my children who were small, I knew about, well, something about writing constitutions, and that's what started my beginnings of being within the administrative, registrative, political side of things, if you want to call it that. So the woman who was my mentor, Pauline Wilson, she and I said, we know more than the ones at Homeopathic Society, and they wanted to know more. So I said, let's teach. We'll just do a weekend or two or a day, Saturdays during the year. And I think we did about 3. And then I said, let's start a college. She said yes. And after about 3 months, I drove her crazy, I think. I didn't even know at that time about myself that I am a very big picture person. And I do not, especially back then, see the details so much. Or I certainly didn't worry about them a whole lot.
We sound like kindred spirits.
One nearly self-destructed in the second year. The first students I got, and here again I got 25 students in that first year, although there is a high attrition rate from it. But even then the policy was, even then I had a very strong system, or a value system for me to say the people who teach have to really know it, and because we don't know enough, I will get teachers in from somewhere else. So there was somebody, Mary Glazier from Nelson, who came so many weekends a year, and somebody else that was when Alistair Gray started teaching for me, and he used to come 2 and 3 times a year. And so we had a wide variety of teachers. However, I did learn, that was a huge learning curve for me about running a business. It was just, and the best advice I ever got from an accountant was this. He said, a wonderful man, he said, this is what you do for a business. You maximize the income and you minimize the outgo. And he said, you're doing that, so you're doing okay. I thought, phew. So there you go. However, in that, when I say I nearly self-destructed, and I opened the college with that first intake in 1991, and that was the same year that my marriage blew up and I left. And I'm not sure what to say about that, exactly that. We grew apart. It's not like it was violent or anything, Gus. It was just, I have to not do this anymore. And it was very hard. However, that was in the middle of 1991. At the beginning of 1992, that was when somebody who was teaching for me said, let's do a summer school, which is what they do in America. And she said, well, we'll ask Julian Winston to come and be part of that because it'll look good on our brochure. And we were aiming to do that just with homeopathy, none of the anatomy and physiology. We'd just teach this to nurses, midwives and doctors, anybody who wanted to come. And we had a very small group attend, but she said, I'll write to this guy in the States. And so she did. And when I knew him better, he said, he got the letter and thought, New Zealand, it's winter in Philadelphia where he's living, and it'll be term break, it'll be semester break. I'll be off. Yeah, a couple of weeks in summer in New Zealand, that'll be cool.
Little did he know.
Well, on some level, maybe he did. I don't know. But I said to Susanna Shelton, who you may know actually, she was the one who was teaching and who introduced us. Mm-hmm. She picked him up and she brought him. And I said, we can't afford a hotel, And she said, oh, no, Lord, we'll just stay in your rented accommodation. It's fine, okay. So they got out of the car and he came around and I was going to shake his hand. And he just looked at me with his head on one side and said, I think Gwyneth's are for hugging. And I was a goner right away. It's just... Yeah.
Do you know, Gwyneth, I actually did not know that I don't want to do the spoiler alert, but that you were married to Julian Winston. So it was until I feel like there's a lot of the history that, of the people that I don't know yet and that I really want to find out bits more about, which is why I think it's so important to have homeopaths on the podcast that have been doing this for a while to share all these stories, because it's really interesting to hear. But I'd love to hear a bit about the love story and a bit about the journey. And
Goodness. He was an extraordinary man, extraordinary. He was a little older than me, about 5 years older than me. And I met him when I was probably in my 40s. He would have been just 50 something. Anyway, luckily he was a goner as well, really, in a way. I said to him before we went away, because he was just here for 10 days, 2 weeks, something like that. And I took him up through Napier to look at the different sort of Art Deco city. And he had a wonderful curiosity where, you know, in those days you came around the corner and there was a sheep all over the road, you know, being moved from paddock to paddock, field to field, if you understand that better. And he went, oh, a New Zealand traffic jam, and was taking photographs to tell all the folks back home. But when he actually went back to, after being here for the time that he was here and went back to the States, he rang me when he got home and he said, what have you done to me? I've been crying all the way from the airport. And I had said to him, well, let's meet up somewhere. You know, when I take a holiday in the middle of this year, which I was planning to do, and I wanted to go to Hawaii because I love it there. And I said, meet me there. And he said, yes. And then he said, no, come to Philadelphia. And I said, okay. And then he said, no, third plan, come to Boston. Well, actually, he said Boston because he was brought up in New York. He, because that's where summer school was. So there's a whole other story about flying into Boston and what it was like going to there.
I have lots of time, so if there's any stories that come up, I'm here for it. I've got my first tutorial with the students this morning. It's not for another 2 hours, so I literally have I even have a lovely almond chai from next door. It's just sitting here. So if you've got a cup of tea, I've got time. Okay, we're good. Go for it.
Well, I love telling this story, and maybe it's a little too much for people. You know, it's easy talking to you, Eugenie, but you know, I'm thinking, how many thousands of people are going to hear this? But,
it's okay, just pretend they're not there. It's just the two of us.
Rather. Anyway.
If it makes you feel better, in 440 episodes, I've said a lot of things that afterwards I'm like, I probably shouldn't have said that.
Well, anyway, so I decided to fly into Boston. Well, by the time I kind of got there, this is 6 months after I'd seen him first, and I asked him at the time the first time I met him, I said to him, will you write to me? And he said, are you on email? And I said, no, I haven't even got a computer. And he said, well, get one. Okay. So what I didn't know was what a prolific writer he was. And he wrote at least every day an email. So I would often be having breakfast with one of his emails. However, flying in to see him, I was beginning to wonder whether, you know, after 19 hours or whatever it was on the flight I wondered whether I was making a huge mistake and what it was ghastly and he didn't like me anymore. But he was waiting with a bouquet, which they stay in, when they were doing their summer schools back then, they had them this is for the National Centre for Homeopathy in the States. They did it at a place where it's term break and they use the college grounds and everybody stays there and so on. So he'd been out in the grounds early that morning and he had picked the most beautiful Calmia latifolia, homeopathic remedy.
Yeah.
It has a particular fondant. He didn't know this, but my mum had one of those plants in her garden. So I knew what it was as well to see. And goose feathers, because there were geese in the grounds. And he
put goose feathers in the bouquet?
Yes, it was all in this bouquet with Calmia latifolia. And then by this time it's quite late in the day. It was 10:30 or something. We had to drive from the airport in the dark to where they were staying. And there was the next day was another day of him doing the summer school because he was the dean of the summer school. So I said, there won't be anybody up. He said, no, they'll all be gone to bed. And I'm thinking, good, because I'm dressed like a rough, you know, tights and a big, huge, baggy T-shirt because that's the easiest way to travel. And he opened the door and pushed it open like this and ushered me in front of him, and the place erupted with all these people. And this is when you had that big printout paper. You know what I mean?
Like a cardboard cutout type thing?
No,
No.
I don't mean that.
Oh.
In those days, for young people who don't understand, you used to get printer paper for your printer for your computer, and that was when it was dot matrix thingy, and it was wide, and they had
Oh, is it those ones
like
that they're kind of
toilet
like
paper.
they're kind of like attached? Yeah, that you put in the fax machine.
Yeah, don't know.
Oh, we
Probably,
had paper like that in our fax machine, and it was kind of like serrated, and you could like tear it, but it was like one
like
long
a
strip.
toilet paper
Yeah,
rip
yeah,
off
yeah,
the.
yeah, yeah.
Well, it was like that, all in one roll, like this, and they'd fringed it
Oh,
like this all along, and it said, "Welcome to, welcome Gwyneth from New Zealand" or something like that. And then there were all these people being introduced to me all these names of homeopathy that were like, because I'd heard them all from him, and I had never met them, of course. And
after
some of them,
19 hours of flying, I would not have been impressed. I have to say, I mean, I'd be like kind of happy, but also like get me to my bed.
I was like, Anyway, he said, "Don't worry." We said, "I'll see you tomorrow," and we'll go upstairs. And we went up the stairs, and he said, "Don't worry, I've got the only key." So he opened the door and ushered me into the room we were sharing, and somebody had had his key for sure, because they'd put another banner in there and chocolates on the pillow and flowers on the bed, and it was very embarrassing, I tell you. And walking in next morning to breakfast was really hard work, but for me. But they were so delighted that Julian had found somebody that he loved like that. They were just so pleased for him, and they'd seen how anxious he was the day before I'd arrived, and how early he'd left for the airport and all the rest of it. So
Oh,
I had
that's
a
so,
wonderful month with him, a
so beautiful,
wonderful
Gwyneth.
time. He took me to a lot of different places and to meet his family, and just in all that time we were together the whole time, all the time. And at the end of it, I think it was a revelation for him that we hadn't ever screamed at each other, which had been his experience from before. So, yeah.
Well, just for the record, my husband and I got engaged 1 week after we met, and we got married 6 weeks later, and that was 18 years ago. So why are you guys not married yet at that stage? We were already married then.
Well, the distance is kind of a challenge, really. No, the next year he came out for about 6 or 7 months to have and worked here in the Polytech here. He was an associate professor of industrial design. So I could talk for half an hour about him.
Oh, like I said, I've got another. Well, there's 3 minutes that have gone now, so I've got like 1 hour and 57 minutes. You can spend at least a half an hour of that on talking about
Forget
Julian.
about the time. I would just like to say about him, when I said he's an extraordinary man, I said to him once, "What's your IQ?" And he said, "It doesn't matter." And I said to him, "Well, it doesn't matter to you because you've got it and I haven't." That sort of IQ. I don't know. It's unusual to meet. No, it's not unusual to meet somebody who's an expert in something. He had a huge interest in old guns, rifles, Winchesters, black powder pistols, all of that. So if you went to a Western movie with him, he would sit there and go, "That's wrong. That wasn't invented till 2 years after this film was shut, as purportedly,
I think like,
that's like, yes, dear." So that was one. Then he was an expert banjo player and played the guitar, but he also built himself a pedal steel guitar, recorded music on it, and wrote 2 books about how to play. So that when I went he wanted me to experience a pedal steel guitar convention where there are like about 3,000 fanatics about pedal steel, and they were so funny. That this is in the days I had very short hair, and the people who go to the pedal steel in those days had big hair. I mean, big hair women, and they couldn't get a handle on me really, and I was like, "This is so weird." And they would try and make conversation. They say, "So you're Mrs. Winnie?" They would say, because in music he is called Winnie Winston. I'd go, "Yeah," because I couldn't begin to explain that my name wasn't his name. and are you a teacher like he is? And I'm going, yeah. I thought, I'm not even going to try and explain homeopathy either. But I was certainly glad I saw how it was for him, just how it was for him in that world. So that was the music. He recorded the last music on pedal steel guitar. About 9 of the tracks were his own song originals that he wrote for the pedal steel. And he wrote that and recorded it in February, and he died in June, that same year. So
what year was that, Gwyneth?
21 years ago.
Oh, that long ago.
When he ended up coming here to stay, we had 2 years where he came for 6 months and went home for 6 months, and then came 6 months. And in that second lot of 6 months, it was the crunch time, because he'd taken a sabbatical and done half a year and then another half a year later. It was during that time that he applied for a visa to stay and didn't get it. And in order to get it, we got married, because neither of us he'd never wanted to be married. And I'd done it once and had the T-shirt and said, I don't think I want to do that again. We decided actually that it was, if we got married, they would allow him to stay and get his residency. So we got married, and then he went back to the States for a year, and then he moved here. So he left the States to come here on June the 12th in 1995, and he died on June the 12th in 2005. So he had 10 years. Wow. So it's been a very long time without him. Longer than with him, really. So
this is the thing that I often think is that, there was one more thing.
It's the homeopathy.
Yeah.
Because he's written the 2 books of homeopathy that are very significant, actually. And he used to be editor of the National Centre for Homeopathy in the States. He was editor of that for years.
Oh, wow. How lucky are they to have had him as an editor? All right.
Well, yes, he wasn't an easy man to be around.
Well, often brilliant people like that are not the easiest to be around. I think they might find it hard to be around normal people because their brains would work on a completely different frequency to the rest of us. And that would be, I think, quite tedious, and you would get irritated that the rest of the world is not quite thinking on the same level as you. So we're very lucky to have these brilliant minds,
Yeah. I saw a different piece of him than his family did. I'd say something about him and they'd be gobsmacked, because they saw the short fuse that couldn't tolerate fools, really.
I'll never have, obviously, the opportunity to interview him or people like Robert Davidson or Martin Miles or people like that. That's part of our homeopathic history. And so for me to be able to hear something like this about somebody like Julian is really wonderful. And part of my goal of what I'd want to do with a podcast is to hear more of these types of stories of the person behind, the name that we all know. We've got their books on our shelves, but we don't know who the person was. And so I'd love to hear more of these stories, like who were they? What were their interests? What were they really like? What were their little quirks? And what were they like, day to day? So it's,
after dinner, sometimes he would say, what do you want me to play? And he'd take down the banjo or the guitar or something and serenade me. Yeah, I have a wonderful DVD of him. He went to, I think it was Slovenia, maybe 8 months before he died. He wasn't very well to travel, and I couldn't go with him. But while he was there, he did Chris Kurz I think he's from Austria, homeopath in Austria. He did an interview, and I have the copy of the DVD. He was being interviewed by Chris, which was it's a fascinating thing to listen to. So.
Wow.
So there you go. I don't know how you do anything about sharing that with people.
We need to have a little chat afterwards, because my husband can definitely digitize it. Like, this is the type of stuff. We're so lucky that we get to watch these things, now that my mum and my dad have both passed, like watching videos of them or even just hearing their voices. It's like they're alive. My daughter actually has a little teddy bear where my mum, years ago recorded a little thing saying, I love you very much. And you press the teddy bear's paw and it says that, I know. Yeah. But the battery ran out. And then like a couple of years later, we're like, I wonder if we can like put a new battery in. We opened up the paw, got it out, and it was just like one of those little flat lithium ion, is it lithium ion batteries? Popped a new one in, pressed it, and it was my mum's voice. hello, Julie. I love you very much. And we're like, oh,
Wow.
it's like,
Yeah.
it's like she's right here with you. It's very lucky that we can record,
Yeah.
photos and videos and just rewatch these things. I have a beautiful video of my grandma playing that piano accordion. And when I watch
Oh
that,
my
I'm
God.
like, you could be sitting right here playing with me right now as if no time has passed. It's
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah. I have his records and I have the memories at least.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't got his book. I'm embarrassed to say that because I know it's one of those like, incredible works that everyone in homeopathy needs to have. I've heard so much about it. So there's The Faces of Homeopathy, an illustrated history of the first 200 years, and the heritage of homeopathic literature. So where's the best place for people to get those books if they wanted to?
The first edition of the Faces book, it's out of print. It's
Okay.
finished. However, Jay Yasker, who is a friend of Julian's, and a friend of his, Joe Lillard, and his wife Linda in one of the states down south of it. Can't remember which one, Virginia somewhere, I think. Anyway, Joe has since died, but Linda Lillard has the homeopathy works, and that's where you can buy the second edition. Jay and Linda got together to do a reprint. It's now in a paperback, and it doesn't have the same beautiful cover that the original has.
Oh, beautiful cover.
Well, this is the heritage of homeopathic literature.
Oh, I
And
love
in
that.
his usual, it's the word inimitable style. He
Inimitable.
writes about the book and he gives it a tick or about whether he liked it or not. And then he will write some in a different text font. He uses italics to write his own opinion about it. Everybody
Okay.
should have this book is terrible or whatever. The author claims to have saved several pages by shortening the abbreviations using sulfur, most seen in books as sulf, has been shortened to SUL and lycopodium to LY, etc.
Oh,
And that's his comment about
yeah,
it,
yeah.
whether it's approved or not. Anyway, it's a beautiful, beautiful book. And this, of course, is part of his library that now resides in Philadelphia.
Oh. So that's
Yeah.
an actual photo of his library. They took the photo of that
Well,
to
he
do the
used
cover.
all his these are on his shelves, so that's what he
Yeah.
took the photo for
Oh.
that. And then this one.
Is this the first edition?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And the back
Oh,
of
it's a meaty one. It's a big book.
it's heavy, yes.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. So all of these are letters from old dead guys with beards. And
These guys with
well,
beards.
that's what he called them, yeah. And this is
So he clearly loved stories about people as well. If he wrote that book, because
he was the foremost homeopathic historian. That's him
wow.
and
Oh, look at that timeline.
that's all his own
Oh,
stuff. And he wrote and published this himself. This is the only book that will have that on it.
what's that? I can't quite
Can you see?
see. No, I can't quite make it
It
out.
says JW and GE.
Oh, Jade.
Oh, you can't see it?
Yeah, yeah, Gwyneth Evans. Oh, that's really sweet. Is that handwritten in there?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that's his signature.
Oh,
And of course, there's a. Can you see? That's his right. He's left-handed as
beautiful.
well.
Oh, really? It's beautiful handwriting. Without you. The first one for Gwyneth, a grand homeopathic and loving partner. Couldn't have done it without you. Oh.
That was a tough.
Oh, I think our listeners are going to be pulling out the tissues as well now.
It's a wonder I'm not.
Oh,
Close. Yeah.
wow. Isn't it amazing? I was saying to somebody the other day, I can't believe I've been out of school like 30 years now. And I'm like, how did that even happen? And I'm sure you must feel that way, like looking back at it over your life. It's like, how have all these things even happened? And, isn't it incredible how sometimes if you're in the thick of things, like, a relationship breaking up and you think, oh my gosh, where am I going to go after this and what's going to happen? And then all these beautiful synchronicities just happen and then life just unfolds. And then you have the privilege of looking back over it and going, wow, everything actually just worked out. I'm sure it would have been better to just have a few more years with him though. But other than that, isn't it incredible how it's all worked out?
When I look back, there's chapters. I see it as chapters. That this was when I was that, and this is when I was this. Yeah.
I do feel though that when we take on students in our schools, we need to make them sign waivers to say that your relationships in your life might drastically change. Because how do you actually ever explain to somebody the transformation that they go through when they study homeopathy? Because, I explained me discovering homeopathy when I was studying at South Pacific College of Natural Medicine. I was studying to become a naturopath, then discovered homeopathy. It was a literal, for me too, cartoon eureka moment. That's how I describe it, like a eureka moment
Yeah.
of literally, I'm like, I remember thinking, oh, this is what people mean when they say eureka moment. I'm like, oh, I get it. It was just a whole body alignment. Everything makes
Yeah.
sense, like in every fiber of my being.
Yes.
But then you don't quite understand, or I didn't understand the personal development that comes from that and how you see everything in life through a homeopathic lens. Like, it's kind of like one of those things where you can't describe to people what it's like to have a child. Like, like how do you describe to somebody who doesn't have a child what it's like to have a child? You can't because it's just like and that's what it's like to study homeopathy. You can't explain really. You can try. Or the
Mm.
experience of giving birth. I remember that. I was like thinking like how was such a profound experience for me. And there's no way. I remember thinking beforehand, oh, I wonder what it'll feel like. Will it be like period pains or like what's going to happen? Or, I didn't really know, I didn't know what to expect. And you can't really explain that to someone. I feel like homeopathy is the same. Like you can't start or studying homeopathy or becoming a homeopath. Can't really describe that to somebody. It's like life changing.
When I went to have an interview with the registrar before I started at college, he said, you realise if you study homeopathy in this college, you will change. It will change your life. It will change you. And I wasn't ready to even think about that. I was just like, I was puzzled. It's like, I don't know what you're talking about. This is in my head, not said out loud. I was going to change. I'm in my late 30s. I mean, hello. Well, I've often wanted to go back and say, you were so right. Just so right. Yeah.
It's one of those things, even with like, my son's 14 now, and I try to explain to him of why we do certain things a certain way. And I'm like, you won't be able to understand this now, but like down the track, it's going to make sense. It's kind of like one of those things you can't. How do you explain to somebody when they sign up to your school? Do you know what you're in for?
You
You
can't.
can't.
You can't. Because A, you don't believe it like me, or
No,
B, you don't want to believe it. I don't know.
no. Or you think
No,
you know,
you,
but
you
you don't.
cannot.
No, you
Actually, you cannot
can't.
because
You
it's
can.
individual anyway,
Yeah, it is. It
what
really.
happens. Yeah.
Well, I am really intrigued to hear a bit more about the Wellington College of Homeopathy as well. And that, I mean, have you got a time constraint? How much time have you got?
No,
Oh,
no.
good. Excellent. Just a bit more about how that went and, the kind of the progression of all of that.
Wow. As I said, it was one of those bright ideas. Oh, we know more. Let's teach it. And it was such a learning curve. The 90s in New Zealand, and I'm going to be talking about at the conference, at the Council of Homeopaths conference.
Which, by the
Um,
way, we can do a quick plug for. They have
oh, goody.
yeah, go for it. They have
Yeah,
a conference in New Zealand it was
yes,
June somewhere. Hey, can you
it
quickly run us
is.
through the
Twe-
details of that?
Sure, it's the 20th, 21st in Wellington at the Mervyn Hotel. Very
Mm.
beautiful hotel at the far end of the south end of the terrace.
Oh, it's such can we just like take a moment to paint people the picture of Wellington? I lived in Wellington for 2 years in a tie, and it's such a beautiful city, and that whole waterfront area is just
Yes,
magical. There's energy there. Wellington's got the best cafes. I used to work for the entertainment book, and so I used to go to cafes and restaurants all day and sign them up for the book.
oh,
I can
force me.
tell you, it's the what's the one of the best jobs just behind homeopathy. But best cafes, best restaurants, amazing people, great vibe, very windy.
Not
Just
always,
not
not
always, no,
always,
but it was
please.
good. Not always. But it's going to be amazing. An incredible hotel. And you've got some Millimum just down the road there as well, which is a beautiful homeopathic
Yes, very close.
pharmacy. Yeah, it's a great city.
Mm.
So go to the conference and where do they get tickets?
You can go online if you go to Homeopathy NZ,
Hmm.
and then you will see a drop-down menu and it'll give you the information for
Oh, cool. So
it,
homeopathy.nz. So
when
no, that's not it.
yes.
Is
Well,
that?
if you just put a
Oh, it
put a
is.
search in your search and you just put Homeopathy NZ, and
Okay.
then below that there's a drop-down menu that says Society NZCH, the
Hmm.
Council of Homeopaths, and something else,
Okay.
colleges or something.
Okay.
Mm.
Well, if you can't find it, just flick me an email. I'll put you in touch with them. Oh, we'll
Sure.
put it in the show notes, even better. We'll put it in the show
Yeah.
notes and then people can find the link there. And there's
Yeah.
still some tickets available.
Otherwise they can just email me direct because
Okay.
it's a colleague and I we defaulted to be the only subcommittee, the committee that's organising.
Really? Wow.
I can tell you that we've got some really good speakers, and there's exciting that about 5 people who haven't presented at conferences before have stepped up, which is, I find is a wonderful.
Are you allowed to say names of who's speaking?
I can tell you one, me.
Oh, yeah.
However, I mean, the title of the conference is Back to Source, and looking at homeopathy as the fountainhead of healing wisdom, which is a very grandiose title to say, let's look at the origins and celebrate who we are and where we've come from in a way. But that title has actually given the possibility for a wide range of ideas about how do you describe what is your origin, or how does this case relate to this title, that sort of thing. So there's some interesting cases there. The main speaker that we've got will be Jeremy Sher. He will actually be talking live, but on Zoom, because of course
I was going to say, because I know Camilla is coming to the Australian conference, and I emailed Jeremy and I said, are you coming along? And he was like, no way, I'm not flying that far. So when you said Jeremy, I was like, he doesn't want to fly to Australia, but he flies to New Zealand. So that makes more sense now.
Yeah, he's giving us an hour of his time.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, that's going to be amazing. Yeah.
Yes, and I think yes. Anyway, that's that. I don't want to talk much about the others because we haven't really released it yet.
Okay, no, that's fine.
We can't finalise the program until we know exactly the time when Jeremy will be speaking, because the time difference is about 9 hours or something. It's not easy.
Yeah, it is tricky. Yeah,
he might end up being sort of at the tail end of Saturday afternoon, but that's okay. One of the other people that we're having is one of the women who will be talking about source water, which is the special water that we have come to know about a little bit because it was introduced at a little bit when we had Veda Austin talking about crystallography.
Did you have her at the conference?
Last in 2024.
Oh, amazing. She's been on the podcast. She's doing incredible work. And I think the homeopaths are everyone's loving her work, but the homeopaths especially, I think I bought her book. It's on my coffee table at home, and just those images are gorgeous.
Yes, we have a homeopathy retreat coming up in about 3 weeks, and we have this every year. And last year, one of the women bought the little petri dishes so we could have an experiment ourselves doing it.
Oh,
so
good.
We had a lot of fun with that. And that reminds me that next year, I would like to just plug this if you don't mind.
Yes, go for it.
We have got Michael.
Michael here, yeah.
Coming to do a 2-day seminar and then a 6-day, probably live-in retreat. Where we'll be triturating every day and exciting stuff.
I'm happy to help you plug that, because Sarah Valentini is obviously, good friends with Michael and has done several of her triturations. I think she's going to I think it's in Hawaii. Is it in Hawaii this year? That she's doing one. And then last year they had it in the Daintree Forest, and the year before that in Thailand, and before that they go all over the place. But it's incredible that she's going to New Zealand.
She's agreed that she'll come here.
Wow.
So my colleague Lila and I will do that through we have a partnership at Andromeda333.com. So
I saw the website, Andromeda333.com.
Yes.
I saw that. Okay, excellent. So that's where the details will be?
It will be when we've got to finalise we're funding the venue. We're waiting to hear. They couldn't book it quite as far ahead as we wanted it to. So we should know by the end of March where that will be.
Oh, it's like literally no slowing down for you, is there?
Why would I?
I know. Well, I feel the same. Like, why would you? I'm like, what else would I be doing with my time anyway? I can't imagine, like, why would I not be doing this? Like, is this like the best thing? And it doesn't even feel like work. So anyway, that helps.
I have other things to do. I've got grandchildren. I've got a big garden. I do woodworking.
Yeah, I was going to say, you said something about the Woodworking Society, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, I love. Well, years and years and years ago, my dear husband Julian gave me a birthday present of a weekend learning how to turn bowls on a lathe. So I went and found something I went and had it. I loved it. I just loved doing it. There's something about the sound and the smell and the wood and how you can reveal the most beautiful grains of something. You just get a chunk of firewood or something, and it's got the most beautiful grain in it. And I just love I just love doing it. And, when you find something that you can do for like 4 or 5 hours and suddenly go, did I stop and eat? That's what it's like for me.
How did he know you would do that? Like you would like that? Was it just like
I made furniture when my children were very young in an evening class. And even at that time, I looked at the lathe and said, can I use that? And they go, nobody touches the lathe. And I'm going, oh, that's for sport. But I did make a lot of furniture. So, like a piano stool and a corner unit for the lounge room and a big long desk for my son with all the drawers in it and dovetailing it. And yeah. And fairly recently, I made a bay window seat with a hinge lid for myself for my bedroom. So.
Maybe that's the part in Julian that like really connected with you, because it sounds like you've got lots of different interests and things as well that keeps you, occupied. Amazing.
I like busy.
Yeah, me too. Anything else that you can say about the Wellington College? I just want to hear what it was like, but mostly just, like the history side of it, I'm really interested in as well. Like, what was the scene like then so that was 1991 that started. So what was the scene of homeopathy like? And I mean, to have 25 students from, not being a known profession as such, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I think one of the things I think about the Homeopathy College is that it is a generator of patients for homeopaths. And with that and the simillimum, which Shirley Gay began at that similar sort of time, after studying in London and England as well. That's a generator in and of itself. But I do have that strong sense that everyone that we teach will go out and teach others or say, you should try homeopathy when nothing else works, that sort of thing. And in that sense, what we do is an important part of how homeopathy can grow. And I think that's why it did grow very strongly. Somehow I ended up as being on the committee of back then was the New Zealand Institute of Classical Homeopathy. And through the 90s, I was the chairperson of that for quite a while. And I ended up as the representative from that organisation to the International Council of Homeopathy for a long time. Through the 90s, I was also heavily involved with a drive to combine the factions of homeopathy into one register in a forward role in a united way. And a lot of work was done. I was chairperson of the council of the institute by that time, and it was a really strongly held wish, a desire of mine, goal to do that. And there was a wonderful subcommittee that worked really hard, somebody from the Homeopathic Society, somebody from the Homeopathic College, Auckland College, because they had their own register, and the Institute, and combining all three and managing grandfathering clauses and so on. And that came to being in about 1999 as the New Zealand Council of Homeopaths. And within 6 months, another group had set up a separate register. And that was devastating for me, absolutely devastating. And they wouldn't talk to me about why or what that was about. So,
do you think homeopaths are just destined to do that? Because I think about this often, that I don't know if I was talking about Marcus Fernandez about this as well. I'm like, why are we such a weird bunch? And it's like, Eugenie, I think homeopathy just, I don't know. It gets me to people from the fringes, or I don't know why. Personality-wise, we are a strange bunch of people. Like, you go to a conference and you look at all the people around the room and the personalities, and you're like, holy moly, it's very interesting. But even, all the people on the podcast. But I've come to the conclusion that we need loads of different personalities and loads of different backgrounds and loads of different belief systems, because that's how we find that's how we can serve all the different patients or clients. If we just have one. But even like our organizations though, like, why are there so many different ones? Like, all combine and be a united front and go that way. But hopefully we can get to that place where we can all practice different ways and have different beliefs and ways of approaching a case, but still be a united front and respect each other's different ways of doing things? I don't know.
Historically, it's always been like that.
Yeah. But does it
And
have to be that way though? Like, I'm just wondering if maybe do we have like a limiting belief as
yes,
profession that, yeah, okay.
quite a few of them, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it doesn't have to be that way.
No, but it's not easy. It's not easy being a homeopath. It's a very complex and potentially lonely profession because you're working on your own mostly. I'm generalizing here. You have to be your own business manager. You have to work on the business as well as in it. It's a service industry. You have to be available, and it doesn't make a lot of money because the time that it takes, sometimes, you might be researching for 4 or 5 hours, and the consultation fee doesn't pay for that at all. So you're already pushing water uphill with a fork. It's like it's hard work. That it's just, I think it takes extraordinary people to do it and do it well.
Yeah, I was going to add as well, and do it well.
I think there's also, we have to be really good educators within our own practice. I'm not talking about college level. I'm talking about, that's what we have to do, is about educating people that it's not a quick fix.
Yeah.
There used to be an ad on TV about a particular product that you take this and soldier on. I don't want to say the name.
Yeah. I think we
People
all
might
know,
recognize it. Take this and soldier on. Well, why would you?
Mm,
Like, logically,
mm.
a GP said to me once, if you get a cold, if you leave it alone, it will go away in 7 days. And if you treat it, it'll go away in a week. I thought, wise man. It's about, I'm not quite sure why I was going to say that, but we can be a really fix it quick so I can go back to work kind of ethic, or sense that that's the way that's right. Let's stop that body doing what it's doing. And to get your head around one of my wonderful women, who was an older woman, this is years ago, an older woman with arthritis. I gave her one little round pill. And when she said, is this all? And I said, yes. And when she came back, all she wanted was her knees to feel better, to get on and off the bus on a trip she was doing. And she came back and she said, well, whatever it was, that magic mothball did it. I enjoyed the trip, and now I'm going on another one, so I want another one of them. Just beautiful description. But how can people even begin to believe that one dose is enough? And there's the education of, this is what it's about. It's about listening to your body and knowing what it's saying and telling your body this is the way to do it. You're giving it a little trigger to do that.
I'm going to be giggling about the magic mothball all day.
I know, it's pretty priceless. I had this little diagram. I did it with somebody just the other day. I was wondering whether it's still in my muddle on my table. When explaining what homeopathy does, I've got a piling system on my
I have a piling system. I'm so glad it's only showing here, but I have a huge piling system.
You don't see that, but
I have a fan. Have you got a fan on your desk?
No.
I don't even know.
No.
I've got pens. Of course, these books.
I'm going to draw you a picture. This is what I do. Hang on a minute. If you imagine, this is us when we're well, and we kind of swing just a little bit. Floats up.
Can you lift it up just a little bit more? Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Okay. So when we get unwell, we swing out to one side.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the anti-remedies, like anti-inflammatory or antibiotic or antidepressant, will try and do that, pushing it back to where it ought to be. Yeah. Then what homeopathy does is push it where it was going. And then it goes a little bit further and goes, oh, that's my idea of what homeopathy does. And if you give too high a potency or too many doses and push it, it'll go a long way over there and it'll be an aggravation. It's just, for me, that's just easy way to explain. This is what we're doing. We're just giving it a little gentle push. And then the two will. So there you go. Maybe your patients will like that. Or the people
I like that. I do like that.
They might not. That's their prerogative, you know. Yeah.
Do you know what, Gwyneth? We should also have a chat about the Kapiti Charity Children's Clinic.
Oh, yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yes. Well, we've been doing it for 2 or 3 years now. I didn't, in the beginning, I was there sort of at the origin of it, and then I said, I can't do this. I've got too much other stuff on, and it's just like, no, because what I felt like was that they were just saying, you have to do all the emails, and I said, absolutely, I won't. I cannot. The emails are the bane of my life, and I already had too many. So I didn't do it for a longest time, and then somebody else pulled out, and I said they wanted me to start. So I said, yes, I would. The whole idea is good. I find personally some challenges in it. And one of them is that often the people who need the most help, actually, they are often the ones who come, and they're not just nice, simple, give me an earache and I'll give you a remedy for that. And the difficulty is in the follow-up as well, because it's not always the same homeopath that you will see. Because, I might do, each of us, like Shirley and Alice and I, might do 2 or 3 through the year, and I might have one now and then nothing until June or something, or July, because I'm too busy with something else. So those are some of the problems that are there. And just
Can you tell us a bit about what it is, though, or how you set it up?
sure.
Because also I'm just thinking, when I really like hearing how homeopaths around the world are doing things, and it's always really interesting like the charities or the whatever that people are setting up, like how are you setting up and how are you doing it? So as a way to educate others around the world and give them some ideas on how they can maybe do that in their own city or state.
Sure. The whole idea was to have one weekend day per month where one homeopath would be taking the case, and then 1 or 2 perhaps students or people who didn't feel so confident could sit in and observe. And you'd have like 3/4 of an hour to talk to the mother or the parent that came and the child, and then they would go and there would be a discussion about what remedy might it be and what did the other, so that the observers could have an input as well. And I find that difficult because I'm very generous with my time, and if it takes an hour and a half, then it takes an hour and a half, and I would always allow at least that long. So in that sense, it's not easy. And does that tell you enough about how it works? I mean, we have one person who has the administrative responsibility, and she's the one who is at the end of the emails, and she will make the appointments for people and contact them, so that we don't necessarily have to do that piece. We just get an email to us saying you've got 3 new patients on Saturday. All of the documents about summarized case notes and remedy given and basic details are kept on in Google Docs kind of site that not everybody has access to, and I don't find that easy either. I don't. Google and I don't always get on very well. That's part of it, I suppose.
It is beautiful because one of our students obviously has sat in on quite a few of your sessions. And it's so helpful for our students. I have actually just started something similar for our CHE students in Australia and New Zealand, where we also have a student clinic, but I'm taking the cases for now until they start taking their own cases. And so it's like a low cost option for families to come along. It's all done via Zoom though, so we get them to sign a waiver, and it's all recorded, and the students find it really helpful because they get to see real life cases. It's almost in a way kind of like an apprenticeship, I guess, because they're sitting in and getting to discuss the cases. So I'm really grateful for the families that are willing to have our students learn from them. It's incredibly valuable learning. It's something that I wish I had the opportunity to do when I was a student. I actually use Homeopathic Symposium a lot for a lot of my clinical hours. I don't know if you've ever used that platform.
No.
I can't.
I don't have a lot of social media handles.
No, it was just it's a website, homeopathicsymposium.com.
Yes.
And you could do some of your clinical hours through there. The good thing with that was it actually showed the cases over several years. So, but that was like, 15 or whatever years ago that I used that platform. I think it is still going. And I just wanted to say you do that with Layla Joffe as well, and you two are also organizing
Yes.
the conference together. Funny story that I had this beautiful little clinic in Silverdale at the
Oh, yeah.
chiropractic center. And yeah, I found out afterwards that when I left, Layla actually took over my room
Oh,
with
yes.
I think they were room sharing with
Yes.
Gina. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I found that
Yeah.
out afterwards. I'm like, oh, it's such a New Zealand is so
So funny.
small.
Yes.
It
Two
is
degrees of
actually
separation.
small because I have a really good friend that we've been friends for like probably 15 years. And she said to me the other day, "Oh, I hear you coming to New Zealand for the conference." I'm like, "How on earth do you know that?" And she's like, "Barbara Roberts told me." And I'm like, "How do you know Barbara?" She's like, "She's my cousin." I'm like, "What?" How do you-" I'm like, I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised. Like it was
Yeah.
just really,
Yeah. That's right.
oh, I
Yeah.
miss New Zealand.
Yeah.
Oh,
But well, there's
yeah.
two. Let me just talk about clinical training
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
It was um, an essential component of when I was running the college, of course, and I love clinical teaching. I love it and coaching. And we had a setup where I would be in the clinic room and the video would be playing directly, and there could be 6 or 8 students sitting in the other room. And then I would excuse myself from the patient. I mean, the patient knew, and I would go and talk to them and say, "What do you think? And is there questions you want to ask?" And then go back. So they were involved in that way, and then we would discuss what was going to go on from there. And then they would come back when there was a follow up in the same group. You know, they would see the follow ups. So that was easier back then, I think, actually. And certainly we had a high component of clinical coaching. There were 3 of us who did most of the clinical training, and we would go to the students' rooms and then sit with them all day while they did patients, so and get that coaching directly while they did it. And I did that quite a lot around the other students from other colleges as well. I've done that, and also I was part of the assessment team for the former institute and so on.
I hope we can do a
So
bit
that's
more of that in-person stuff as well. My goal is because I also trained in New Zealand, the one weekend a month where you go into this full immersive, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I think it was 3 days off memory, like full day Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And it was just incredible. And then you also, we had DVDs. So, you had DVDs sometimes as well. And then you had assessments to do and you had to get them in before the next. It was amazing. So my goal is to have that in Australia as well because that was really valuable. But talk to me a little bit about this bespoke
oh,
homeopathy course that you and Layla are doing on top of everything else.
well, a couple of things happened. Um, the former college closed very abruptly, and that's the last one that was in New Zealand at that time. And Lila there was a group of women who were interested in knowing more about the process of homeopathy, which is a really important part of it, understanding it's not just one dose fix all, usually not. In chronic cases I'm talking about. So she said, "I've got these people and, I think we should do it a bit more formally. Did you want to do that?" And I said, "Yes." And we have somebody from down here who's going to join. And so we set up the course. We just said, "Do you want to ask them? Let's do it in a better way." We're going to meet we started off saying weekly, a couple of hours, but we've changed it to about probably 3 hours on Zoom and then fortnightly like that. And we've committed to do a 100-hour course. There's no anatomy and physiology because I said I'm not qualified to do that and she doesn't either. So we said, well, you can do this course. You'll have a good understanding of how to use it with your family, and that's what we're going to do.
That's
But
beautiful.
we'll add some weekends in as well along the way to get the hours. So I'll do a road trip up to Auckland.
Amazing.
Do that up there. So yeah,
And
and
I'll
I have.
pop your email address in the show notes, and then people
That
can
would
just
be
contact you
lovely.
through that. Yeah,
Thank you.
you
I
can have
love it.
another email. I'm so sure you're so excited
Well,
about.
you could put the Andromeda 333.
Yeah. I'll put both the
That would be lovely.
and
Thank you for
should I put
doing
the
that.
Empower in there as well, the empower.net.nz or
Yourself.
not?
That's myself. You
Okay.
could also, if you like, you could probably find Julian Winston.
Mm-hmm.
julianwinston.com, I think it is.
Okay. I've got julianwinston.com here. Yeah, homeopathy and great AUK publishing and music. Oh, banjo, pedal steel.
Yeah, that's his. That was his whole website.
About Julian. Oh, he was also a May baby. So you
Yes,
said
he
your birthday
was.
is in May, and I see he's
Yeah,
born
he
May
was.
31st.
Yeah, he's a Gemini. Yes.
So you also Gemini? Oh, okay. Is it the
I'm a
Taurus
Taurus.
side? Okay.
Through
No, I
and
was going to
through.
say, because I know a few couples who are like Gemini couples, they seem to like to hang together.
No, I'm more
Oh,
Earth.
it's a cute little photo of him.
Oh, I took that.
Oh,
Sitting
did
there.
you? Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
very
I took
sweet.
a whole lot, and he chose that one even.
He's actually got a bit of an angel face. Like, looks like a bit of an angel.
Very special man. Yeah,
Oh,
he was a gift
Gwyneth,
in
I'm
my life.
sure Julian was here in spirit with us, like listening in on this conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Is there anything else? Because I probably should go get ready for this tutorial in a little in a little bit.
Might need to repeat something. Yeah, I need to go and have some lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any final messages that you want to leave us with?
No, just, just even though I said, oh, my email inbox and all the rest of it, I have understood that my life is about being of service, and that's what I do
Yeah.
in a spiritual sense as well as within homeopathy. That is, I was reading something from and listening to one of Jeremy Shear's webinars just recently, and he was telling about the organon and how he's rewriting it and so on. And he said he did a new aphorism or paragraph, that is paragraph 0. And at the bottom of it says, I have not lived in vain. I've done, and the whole piece resonated so strongly with me. It's said about my life, really. It's like, I have done these things that he's talking about, and I have not lived my life in vain. I think I have done, and am still doing, my purpose in this life. And not many people can do that, actually. I've been very, very blessed in my life, even though some of it was not easy. It's been a great pleasure to talk so much. Thank you for listening.
It's been a pleasure. We could just keep going. Thank you so much for sharing that, Gwyneth. And if you ever want to come share some more stories with us, please do. It's just been a pleasure having listened to you. I've had some tears, I've had some goosebumps, I've had some laughs and some sighs. So it's been really lovely to hang out with you. It's a good one.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Have a fabulous time at the conference. My timing might be a little bit off. I hope I can make it. If things fall in place, it'll happen. Like if that one thing falls in place, and the next, if that happens quickly, then I can come. But it'll be last minute because I'll have to wait to hear about it.
Otherwise, you just have to come to Michal's.
Now you're talking, actually. Now you're talking.
It'll be in March, probably.
Yeah. Beautiful. Weather will be better.
Put the tentative date in your mind.
Yeah, no, that's so March 2027. Oh, that's actually good. It's really not that far away.
I know.
That's right.
There'll be more organising. But
well, yourself and Mikhail need to come on the podcast a bit, like whenever you start selling tickets, and we can tell people a little bit more about what they can expect.
Oh, how super.
We've had Mikhail on the podcast before when she talked about the Daintree one, so it's always nice to let people know what they can expect, and any excuse to come to Aotearoa.
Yeah, there you go.
Country. Alrighty, lots of love. Talk to you soon, hopefully. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.